Happy New Year to our viewers. We are very excited to have you back. It is a new year, 2023, full of possibilities. I hope you will join us as we embark on this journey to learn more about investments, pensions, and how to maximize our portfolios to give us the best returns that we can have for the year 2023. So, for this segment, we are going to talk about pensions. And I really hope that you will take home something, you will improve on something, and you will learn something. And I have a very special visitor with me. I'll allow him to introduce himself.
Thank you so much. And my name is Albanas Mudoka, a pension consultant from Enwealth Financial Services Limited.
And I'm so happy to have you here, Albanas, because there has been a lot of misconception and a lot of myths and a lot of, unfactual information going on about a pension. And I think it's very important for us to highlight to the general populace what exactly pension is about, and for the viewers to be able to understand, at what point do I start thinking about my pension? At what point do I start looking at my pension? And at what point do I start, actively being engaged in matters to do with my pension? Some people assume that just because I'm not in formal employment, that's not something for me. Hiyo ni kitu watu wa formal employment wanakatwangwa at the end of every month. Or some people will be like, I'm too young. I'm too young. It's not my time. That's something my mom and my dad talk about. So I think, first of all, we should start by defining what exactly is pension.
Thank you so much. And I do agree there are a lot of misconceptions about pension. And again, looking at majority of young people who think saving for retirement is actually reserved for the elderly in the society.
Yeah.
Also looking at the people in the informal sector who feel that pension is actually as well a function of those who are actually employed, which is actually not correct. And for you, it is about pension is about you saving for your future, for your retirement. There are different stages in life. Right now, there is a stage when you are in school, there's a stage when you are energetic enough to be working, and there is that stage where then you stop working and you have to start deaccumulating what you have accumulated during your working season. And pension, therefore, comes in to be able to address those issues or concerns you'll be able to have once you hit that particular retirement age. And we do advise majority of the young people is start thinking about retirement from the day you get your first pay slip. From the day you get employed, you get your first pay, that should be the time you have the discipline to start saving for your future. To start saving for that time when it comes, when you retire, you have no energy to continue working, then you can deaccumulate what you have been able to save over the years.
And you've said something very important: when you can no longer be able to work. So then do you mean that I can start enjoying my pension, say for example, if I decide to retire in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, or is it strictly for someone who has reached 60?
When it comes to pension, is there are regulations and policies that have been put in place to be able to guide the manner in which any person contributing in a pension arrangement can access their money from a pension arrangement. Either it is a personal pension scheme established by financial institution for the informal sector and the self-employed, or is an occupational scheme which is established by your employer. And if you look at the case of an occupational retirement benefit scheme, is if you leave employment, you are entitled to a certain percentage of your contribution or your total benefits within that particular retirement benefit scheme. However, the intention is not to get your money out. Once you leave employment or you change employment before the retirement age, the purpose is keep your money once you attain the normal retirement age, because that is the purpose of saving, is when you can come in and access the money. For those in the informal sector and the self-employed, they are able to save through the personal pension vehicle. And in that particular arrangement, there is a leeway to be able to access your money anytime that you want.
Yeah.
However, there is a purpose where you putting that money in a personal saving is to take care of your future upon
Okay.
retirement. And therefore, do encourage that you keep the money and let it serve its purpose.
All right. You've talked about different pensions, catering to different people. And out there, for those, especially for those people who are employed, you might find that there are some people who've heard of the pension scheme at their employer's place, or who have been in pension schemes, but they do not understand the type of pension scheme the type of pension schemes that are out there. So could you maybe explain to us, when I hear of a DB scheme or a DC scheme or a staff retirement benefit scheme or a provident fund, what do all this mean? There's some
Okay.
people out there who don't really understand what all these terms mean.
Thank you so much. And I do agree it's very important. Once you join a retirement benefit scheme, it's important you understand the structure of the pension scheme being provided by your employer.
Yeah.
Within the Kenyan concept, we have different types of retirement benefit scheme.
Yeah.
We have defined benefit scheme and we have defined contribution pension schemes.
Yeah.
All these fall under occupational retirement benefit schemes. For defined benefit schemes, these are schemes where the benefits are predetermined.
May I just interject? When you say
Yes.
occupational pension schemes, what do you mean by that?
When you talk about occupational pension funds, we are talking about employer-sponsored retirement benefit schemes.
Okay.
So these are schemes that have been established by a specific employer for their employees, and therefore the membership of that particular fund is purely the employees or eligible employees of that particular sponsor.
Okay.
So that's what we are talking about, occupational pension, because membership is tied to the occupation, to that particular employer.
Yeah.
And in that particular arrangement, then it can either be a DB scheme or it can be a DC scheme. And in some other cases, we have an hybrid arrangement, which is a mix of the DB and the DC scheme.
So you explained to us what a DB scheme is. So what is a
Okay.
DC scheme?
For a defined contribution pension fund is an arrangement where what you go home with in your retirement is defined by how much you have contributed, which could be a fixed amount that you're contributing, or could be a percentage of your salary.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, because the money is being invested, it is earning income. And therefore, what you're going home with is therefore defined by your contribution, what the employer is contributing for you, the income generated over the period of contribution, then you deduct expenses incurred in operating that particular arrangement. That is a defined contribution pension fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for a person who's watching right now and they're in employment and they know that there's these pension schemes that are, that are there at their place of work. Is it possible to say, I don't want to be in a DC scheme, I want to be in a DB scheme? Do you really have a choice when you're employed?
Well, looking at the structure and mostly looking at the employment contracts,
Yeah.
it clearly specifies the kind of scheme that the employer has established and where you qualify to be in either in a DB or in a DC scheme. However, at this particular current age, is majority of the DB schemes are being frozen and they are therefore operating as closed pension schemes.
Yeah.
When I talk about closed pension schemes, it means they are not admitting new members in that particular arrangement. And therefore, majority of employees coming in are
Yeah.
being enrolled under the DC arrangement.
So then this goes without saying that if you are currently employed, probably you've been employed over the last, I don't know, 10 years, 20 years, you're a young person, you're highly likely going to be in a DC scheme other than a DB scheme. That's what you're trying to say. So,
Correct.
Aya, let's focus on these schemes. Is there an advantage that one has over the other, or are they just similar? This is just for knowledge purposes now.
Well, sometimes if you look at a DB scheme, is what you go home with will depend on your salary, because your benefits then will be computed based on how long have you worked with that particular employer, then your salary and the actuarial factors that will be determined by an actuary on behalf of the board of trustee. Looking at the DC scheme is basically what you are contributing and the income that is being generated. And therefore, for a DB scheme, if you have not been there for long, then you may not have significant benefits that you go home with. If your salary is not significant, sometimes it may disadvantage you as a member. And if you look at the DC arrangement, in this particular case, similar cases of where you have your pay is not significant, then the money that you go home with may not be enough to sustain you in your retirement. And similarly, if you have investment returns that are lower over the period, again, it reduces on the your retirement pot. And therefore, between the two pension funds, they are all okay. However, there are certain factors, as you have mentioned about the salary, how much are you contributing, the returns that are being generated, they actually matter on how much you are actually going to be able to retire with.
Okay. So from the moment I get employed, I've just gotten employed, I'm being onboarded. There are all these papers that HR gives you to sign, yeah? And one of them will be the pension, yeah? This at the point of not at the point of employment, after you finish your probation period, now you're being made permanent and pensionable, as they say. So you'll be given these papers to sign. So what are the key things that I should know as as I'm signing that paper to join the pension scheme? Is there things that I should look out for, things that I should know?
For every member, because in this particular case, is when you are being confirmed into permanent and pensionable, that means then automatically you are enrolled in the pension scheme of the employer.
Yeah.
Either it's a DB or it's a DC scheme. And I'll just talk of a case of defined contribution pension because it's more popular nowadays.
Yes.
As a member, when you are joining the scheme, it's important that you understand what kind of arrangement are you joining. Under DC, we have a pension, we have a provident fund. And therefore, as a member, you can inquire from the board of trustee or from the HR manager, is the scheme that is being run by the board on behalf of the sponsor, is it a provident or is it a pension fund? Because you need to understand the difference between the two schemes. For provident funds, is if you hit the retirement age as specified in the rules of the fund, you can actually draw your money as a cash lump sum.
100% of it.
This is 100% of your total benefits, less applicable taxes.
Okay.
If it is, and then with an option of commuting a proportion of your benefits and the balance being utilized to purchase a pension. Then for a pension scheme is upon retirement, there is a restriction on the amount of money you can access as a cash lump sum, and the balance has to be utilized to purchase a monthly pension for you, either as an annuity or an income drawdown arrangement. And therefore, understanding the structure, is it provident or is it pension, is important for you as a member. You also need to be able to understand how is the contribution, what are the rates of contribution. This is both the employee contribution, employer contribution. Are there options as a member to be able to make voluntary contribution to be able to increase my retirement pot?
Yes.
You need as well to be able to understand the retirement ages within that particular fund, where in most cases the retirement age, which is the early and normal retirement age, are actually borrowed from the HR policies of the employer. But again, as a member, you need to be able to understand what are the retirement ages within the scheme. Are they aligned to the retirement ages of the sponsor? As well, who are the board members? Because governance is very critical. Because this is your money that you're giving someone to manage on your behalf. And therefore, you need to be able to understand how is the scheme being governed. Who are the board of trustees? Are they individual trustees? Are they corporate trustees? Who are the service provider? Who is the administrator of the fund? Who is the fund manager? What kind of returns have you been able to generate within this particular arrangement in a pension scheme? Because that return is going to determine how much as well you're going to retire with. And these are information that you need to be able to access as a member when you are joining the scheme. And where possible, as a member, request for the documentations of that particular fund, request for the trustee enroll of that particular scheme.
So you mean to tell me, as an employee of a company, I have a right to this documentation? I have a right to know all these things?
Yes, and this is provided within the Retirement Benefits Act.
Yeah.
You have a right as a member to be able to access that information from the scheme.
Yeah.
You ask the board of trustees to give you a copy of the trustee enroll. you have the right to be able to access a copy of the financial statements of the scheme, to be
Yeah.
able to understand how the scheme is being managed. That is
Yes.
your right as a member.
I mean, viewers, we have no excuse. We need to stop being passive in our money. Where our money is concerned, you cannot
Yes.
afford to be passive. We're being told you have a right to know. You have a right to know how your scheme is being governed, how it's being managed. Who are the board of trustees? When is the AGM? What are the trust deed and rules? Do you even know when your scheme was founded? Do you even know when the AGM happens? You know, these are some of the important things that you need to know as a member of a scheme. Let's talk a little bit about AGMs. So we find that AGMs happen and people don't show up. Is it important to show up at an AGM? Is it important to attend and be active?
Well, we did talk about the rights of members in
Yes.
retirement benefit schemes, and attending scheme events, which includes the AGMs, member education days,
Yeah.
is one of the rights of these members. And therefore, as a member of a retirement benefit scheme, you are encouraged to attend the annual general meetings,
Yeah.
because these are events that happen once in a year.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it is in that particular forum where you get information about how the scheme has been managed, how the scheme has actually performed for that particular financial period,
Yes.
where you have any question relating to the governance of the scheme, where you have any question relating to the structure of the scheme, or any question around the scheme. That is the opportunity you have as a member to be able to raise it and get feedback and response from the trustees and the service providers.
Yeah.
And therefore, as a member, you are encouraged attend those particular annual general meetings and participate in those particular events. Ask questions,
Yes.
because that is your day and that is an AGM that has been set for you to be able to get that information on the scheme.
And for the people who also hear about member educations and they're like, whatever, that's not for me. I'm a little bit too busy at my workstation. How important is member education? What is taught during those member educations?
Well, for members, I think it is very important for them to be able to participate in those particular forums, especially member education,
Yeah.
because during these particular events is where you have a professional coming and speaking to you.
Yeah.
And it may not be purely on issues relating to the scheme, even on personal issues where you may need some guidance from these professionals. You have the fund manager who is seated there, you have bankers who are acting as custodian who have come to those particular events, as well as the scheme administrators. And these are the time where you can actually engage them and get more information to grow yourself,
Yeah.
and also to access more information relating to how your scheme is being managed.
Okay.
And therefore, as a member, make sure that you attend the forum and make sure that you have more engagement with the trustees and service providers to be able to extract that information from them.
Okay. So apart from AGM and member education, are there any other events that maybe a member of a pension scheme should be aware of or should look out for and be actively involved in?
Well, nowadays is looking at the generation that we have, is the schemes have online platforms where members can actually access information.
Yeah.
And therefore, as a member, you can inquire from the trustees, how am I able to log in on the platforms which are there to be able to access the information about the scheme.
Yeah.
If you need to be able to see your historical contribution, if you need to extract a statement of your contribution,
Yeah.
you can actually be able to log in on that particular platform, get all that information that you need.
So, Albanas, you brought out something very important, being able to access your data real time. So you mean if I want to, see my statements, it's possible I view it real time, and it's possible that I know what has been going on with my side of funds in real time?
Um, yes, because if you look at the population we have,
Yeah.
the membership in
Yeah.
our retirement benefit schemes, majority of the members are young people. And for these young people, they are used to accessing everything on their mobile phones.
Yeah.
And therefore is them being able to, and also as a board, as a trustee, you need to be able to make sure that these members can actually access that information on the online platforms that are available, where a member is able to log in.
Yeah.
I need my statement. I don't need to call the trust secretary to give me the information. As
Exactly.
a member, I don't have time to keep calling the administrator to give me that
Or wait
information.
for 1 year before you see your
Or
statement.
wait for 1 year for you to be able to start printing statements.
Yeah.
I need to access that information real time.
Yeah.
And how can I do that? There is a mobile application where I can log in, view my online, my statement online, view I can actually do a projection of my benefits. Because I'm thinking about retirement and I'm able to
Exactly.
project by the time I retire, how much money will I have accumulated. And this is information I need to access online.
Yeah.
If there is any details about the scheme, the structure, who is the board of trustee, what are the service providers,
Yeah.
how is the sponsor, what is the strategic plan of this particular fund, I can actually log in and access that information on online platform.
Yeah.
Because all that information has been uploaded on the portal. It's easy for me to access. If I need a trustee enroll and financial statement, because that information that I have a right to is information I can actually log in and view it on the online platform. I have a right as well to be able to elect trustees, because these are the people who are running my scheme.
Yes.
And therefore, for me to elect a trustee, I can actually log in and elect trustees
At
online.
your convenience,
At my
whether you're on leave or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because either I'm either an active or a deferred member, they may
Yes.
not have last luxury to travel and come to the
Yes.
headquarters or wherever it is to start casting a vote.
Yes.
I just log in online and vote for the person that I want.
Yeah. So you shouldn't be discriminated based on your location or your
Exactly.
ability to show up.
Yes.
Okay, and I like that. So the other thing I wanted to understand, yeah. So is there a way that, for example, I'm a person who joined a pension scheme. I'm new. I've attended the AGM. I've attended the member education, but I want to be more actively involved. How can I be able to do that?
Okay, for majority of retirement benefit scheme, they have a work plan and
Yeah.
they have a calendar of trainings.
Yes.
This includes a number of member education that are going to be carried out, retirement trainings as well. And therefore is for you as a member, you obtain that information from the board of trustee. When are you planning to have a member education? When is the retirement training happening?
And this can be on the online portal.
And this can actually be online portal.
Okay.
And once you've been able to attend all those particular forum,
Yeah.
you can also look at if even the Retirement Benefits Authority has training that have been provided. And therefore, as a member, you can actually participate in those particular forum being provided by the Retirement Benefits Authority. That is something that you as a member, you can actually do, is you can ask for that information from the Board of Trustees, from the scheme administrator. The opportunities where you as a member, you are able to participate in.
Yeah.
And there are some contents that are relevant to you as a member where you are able to participate in. And we do encourage Board of Trustees to be able to have an age-based training.
Yes.
Where in an age-based training is we are able to identify a certain age group and we are able to talk to them on issues that are able to relate to them. If it's a member who is between the ages of 20 to around 30 years, there are issues that are very pertinent to those particular group of members.
Yes.
And therefore, that is a conversation we are going to have with them.
Yeah.
The Board of Trustees has to be very proactive in ensuring that members are engaged on scheme matters, and therefore they can actually organize for this particular forum and invite professionals to come and talk to these members.
Wow. Wow. This is very enlightening. And you've mentioned something about, when you're mentioning about access to information, you mentioned about the online portal where, you should be able to go and view your statements and even do projections. And I'm very interested about this projections part, because we have been drumming we have been waving the flag for, financial management, knowing about your future, planning for your future and all that. My question is this. When you go online and do your projections and start seeing like, hey, I was projecting to retire with 20 million, but the reality on the ground, it seems like at best I will do 5 million. Is there something I can do about it? Or that's it? That's my goose has been cooked at that point.
Well, as a member, when you are saving in a retirement benefit scheme, you save with a purpose.
Yeah.
And this purpose is the kind of lifestyle you want in your retirement. And therefore, if a member wants to retire with 20 million Kenya shillings, is then what strategies are they putting in place to be able to retire with 20 million shillings in their retirement?
Before we even proceed, let me ask, does this platform allow you to work backwards? Say you already know, I want to retire with 30 million. can I now work backwards and say, from now henceforth, I need to be saving X amount of money? Does it allow you to do that?
It's a world of technology, and
Yeah.
everything is possible.
Yeah.
And yes, it is possible for you to be able to work backwards,
Yes.
because this is just a formula
Uh-huh.
where you just key in how much you want to get as a pension in your retirement, and the system is able to compute how much you need to contribute today
Yeah.
for you to have that the amount you want to be able to retire with. So it is possible, and a platform for provider should be able to provide for that.
Yeah.
And therefore, as a member, is if you feel you have not been able to meet that particular objective,
Yes.
is then what options are there for you? As a member, because the system is able to give you how much you need to be able to contribute to meet that particular target. And therefore is you need to be disciplined to be able now to contribute that particular amount for you to be able to meet your target. If I'm giving an example, is my retirement target is 20 million Kenya shillings.
Yeah.
And the projection gives you that you need to be able to make contributions of around 30,000 Kenya shillings. The normal contributions, this is employee-employer contributions, where the employer is contributing for you, is around 20,000. There is a deficit of 10,000 Kenya
Yes.
shillings.
Yes.
And therefore, you as a member, you can actually be able to make voluntary contributions to top up that difference.
Oh, really?
That is allowable, and every trustee and rules allows members to top up their contributions as voluntary. The other aspect is to be able to look at historical performance of the fund,
Yeah.
because the returns that the scheme is generating to you as a member have a significant influence on how much money you retire with. And therefore is to be able to look, are we getting optimal returns from the scheme? Where you feel the returns are not optimal, as a member, you can actually engage the board of trustees and also the service providers, which mostly the fund manager, to be able to see which asset classes we can actually invest in to generate that kind of return. That is
So,
optimal.
in short, you're saying the power is 100% in the members' hands.
It is.
Now, another question that I had as you were just talking, yeah. So this additional contribution, yeah, you said you're giving an example of 30,000. Is you've gone online, you've worked backwards, you've seen I'm supposed to be contributing 30,000. From this 30,000, currently I'm at 20,000. My contribution plus my employer's is 20,000. I have a deficit of 10. I want to ensure this 10,000 is added. So it is entirely possible to do that, to
Yes,
get
it
it
is.
deducted at source.
Yes, it is, because when it comes to voluntary, this is at the discretion of the member.
Yeah.
And there are necessary forms that you need to fill, which then have to be submitted to the finance and also the board of trustee, and you instruct them to deduct the amount and remit that to the scheme as voluntary contribution. At the end of each year, or as you log in on the online platform, you are able to view how much you are contributing as voluntary. It
Yeah.
has to be separated from the
Yeah.
normal contributions that you're making.
Yeah.
And that is going to help you to be able to achieve your retirement target.
Okay. And this voluntary contribution, I mean, I'm a Kenyan. We are all Kenyans here. And we like to know, sawa, nitatoa your voluntary contribution, but what is the advantage? Apart from it increasing my pot, is there any other advantage?
Well, if you look at the incentives we have in retirement benefit sector, is you have a tax deductible amount of up to 20,000 Kenya shillings in a month. And this has been provided for within the Income Tax Act.
Yeah.
And therefore, as a member, if I give an example that you are contributing, the normal contribution is 10,000 Kenya shillings. And from your salary is what will be deducted is you have a pay, for example, of 100,000. Then from 100,000, then 10,000 will be deducted. The pay applies on the 90,000. You enjoy a tax relief on the 20,000, on the 10,000. But as a member, if I make voluntary contributions of 10,000 Kenya shillings, that means my own contributions is 20,000. This is my deductions and the AVC.
Yes.
It means from the payroll level, I enjoy a tax relief of 20,000 Kenya shillings. And therefore, from my
Amazing.
pay of 100,000,
Yeah.
the first 20,000 will not be subjected to tax. So the payee will apply
To the
on
80.
to the 80,000.
Yeah.
And therefore, you have reduced on the tax that you're paying in a
So,
legal way.
So this is a clever way of reducing your tax obligation.
Exactly.
So it is to your best interest to do additional voluntary contribution.
Exactly.
Because one, you benefit from the tax, and two, you're adding onto your retirement pot.
And thirdly,
Yeah.
is the law allows you as a member
Yes.
at the point when you are retiring, and
Yeah.
especially for pension funds,
Yes.
they allow you to commute any amount you have done as voluntary as a cash lump sum.
Okay.
If you want that voluntary to be paid to you as a cash lump sum, that can be done.
So let's take it back. So this is a DC scheme, yeah?
Yes.
A DC scheme is whereby you're only allowed to access a third at the point of retirement.
Correct.
You access a third, and 2/3 will be paid to you in installments every month, yeah?
Correct.
However, if you are doing additional voluntary contributions, you can access the 1/3 lump sum
Correct.
plus the entire pot of your voluntary contribution as a lump sum.
Correct. In fact, what we do is first we deduct the voluntary.
Yes.
The third applies on the balance. And this is the voluntary plus all the accrued income.
Yes.
Deducted first.
Yes.
Then that is set aside. A third will apply on the balance.
Okay.
So you get your 1/3 as a lump sum plus your voluntary and all the accrued income.
Honestly, we have no excuse not to be doing this.
Exactly.
We need to all be on the additional voluntary contribution.
Yes.
As soon as you step into employment, you should be signing that extra 10,000 out, you know?
And because today I can tell you 10,000 is not a lot of money.
It is not.
And let's not even talk about even 10,000 Kenya shillings. Let's talk about a member who has a voluntary of 1,000 Kenya shillings.
Yes.
With 1,000 Kenya shillings, if I give you 1,000 Kenya shillings, by the time you're getting home, you don't have that money. But you can look at, if I put that money aside in a retirement benefit scheme, and we pick a member who's aged 25 years today, with 1,000 shillings and assumed rate of return of around 10%, by the time this member is hitting the retirement age of 60 years, we will have 3.2 million Kenya shillings.
From 1,000, Bob?
You'll have more than 3 million.
From 1,000 shillings?
From 1,000 Kenya shillings. And
this is my lunch. From my lunch, I can have 3.2
this is actually
million.
From your lunch. And if you actually look at now the principal contribution, it's only 420,000. The rest is the income that you have been able to generate.
Wow. I think we should talk more about this additional voluntary contribution. And now, as a final question to that, I just want to know, is there a limit to how much I can add additionally? Is there a limit? If I have the capability of doing 20,000 or 30,000 or 40,000, is there a limit? So
we're talking about your future.
Yeah.
We're talking about the kind of lifestyle that you want to retire.
Yeah.
And therefore, there are no any restrictions. You can contribute any amount.
Yes.
This is a check-off instruct the finance. The money is deducted from the payroll and paid to the scheme without any restriction on the amount.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So honestly, viewers, we need to be on this bandwagon. We need to join this train. You have no excuse. You need to be doing additional voluntary contribution. You should ask your scheme trustee how you can do your additional voluntary contribution, or even your HR. Talk to them. Ask them, how is it possible for me to add some extra money into my pot? Because there are all these advantages, incentives to it. Honestly, we have no excuse. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have learned something from our discussion on pension schemes. I hope you have increased your knowledge on matters to do with pensions and how your pensions are being managed. I hope for the people who don't have a pension scheme in place, you have seen the need for you to get one for yourself, and you have also learned what is the best way that you can go about getting a pension scheme for yourself. As usual, remember to like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.